The danger is that China might actually go on the offensive, not militarily. I mean, there's a lot talked about, China invading Taiwan and so on. I would dismiss that. I just don't see that. Apart from anything else, the Chinese know this. They're not going to invade, for goodness sake. That's not their approach at all. But I think the attack on America is going to be financial. Putting myself in Xi's shoes, I would just bring down the dollar. I mean, it's an extreme thing to do, but having laid the groundwork with CIPS, the Chinese settlement system, which excludes the dollar, having laid the groundwork for a yuan which is exchangeable, which will be, it is already exchangeable for gold. It's just that the rate hasn't been fixed. That is something that could happen. Fix the rate. And what does that do to confidence in the dollar? I think it kills it. So there are moves on the financial side which the Chinese can do. They've still got something like 600 billion of US treasuries. They've probably hedged the risk in that to a large degree. We don't know. But that's something which they could bring into play. I think also there's a feeling that Trump's targeting BRICS because, for a start, Argentina accepted membership of BRICS, and then when Milei got in, that was rescinded for American support, as it were. Brazil, I have no doubt that Brazil is a candidate for regime change, which again, being the be in BRICS is a very, very important development. You've also got conflict over copper developing, I think, in the Democratic Congo Republic, or DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and also Zambia, which is trying very, very hard to stay neutral in all this. So you can see that things are actually hotting up, particularly on the commodity side. And I suspect that part of China's thinking in terms of letting the silver price rip was it's an extension, if you like, of their policy, their rare earth policy. They know what hurts America, and that's high commodity prices. So look at the price of copper. That's gone through the roof. So I think there are some very, very big headwinds heading America's way. And this is not the way to deal with Trump is not to try and declare war on him or escalate military conflict, but basically undermine his currency, and that will make him powerless.
And in terms of China letting the silver price rip, how did they do that?
Well, basically, China has been controlling the silver price for the last 3 decades. It started with the rare earths. It decided, you ain't getting rare earths. And when the silver price started rising, I think China realized that it had to make a choice. Do we continue to suppress the price at the risk that we lose our strategic stocks, because they built up strategic stocks? I mean, bear in mind that China is the second largest silver miner, and also it is the largest processor of both silver, doré, and also metallic ores, copper, zinc, lead, and all the rest of it, where you find silver. So they have accumulated huge, huge quantities of silver. They have been the swing factor in the price. That is absolutely clear if you actually look at the facts. So what she's done, basically, is she's decided to not completely remove supplies into the West, but to control them more closely. And this was really behind the new licensing regime, which applies from this January and is due to be in place for the next 2 years. President Xi did 2 things. They announced an acceleration of the free trade agreement, or a move towards a free trade agreement between China, South Korea, and China. Now, okay, there's been change of government, if you like, in Japan. But the other thing he did was a whistle-stop tour around Southeast Asia. And that was followed not long after by an announcement from the Shanghai Gold Exchange that they were opening a vault in Hong Kong. And also in, guess where, Saudi Arabia. So This is clearly preparation for an exchange rate to be fixed between the yuan and gold at the time when it is appropriate to do so. And that time, in my view, and this is, you don't have to be the brain of anywhere to work this one out, is bound to be when the Chinese feel they've got to protect the yuan from a collapsing Western financial system. And that collapsing financial system, I think, is probably tied up very much with the equity bubble in America, the credit bubble, in effect. When that goes pop, then the whole system is going to be destabilized. And that, I think, is going to be the big story in the first half of 2026. And it will kill the dollar as well. I mean, from that point, the dollar is really going to go down. The value of any fiat currency is not only dependent on changes in its quantity, but also changes in the faith people have in it, the people who actually have in this currency. Now, that faith is deteriorating. I mean, you can see with the Chinese moves basically to take the whole of the BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization away from the dollar. Introducing, I mean, all this stuff about unit and all the rest of it is actually hogwash. What they're doing is quite simple. They're doing a Bretton Woods Mark III, and that is a currency system which is based on a yuan, which for trade settlement purposes will be tied to the value of the dollar. I don't see the Chinese public being allowed to exchange their yuan for gold. Sorry, tied to gold, I should say. I don't see them being able to exchange their yuan for gold. But at the international trade level, countries will be swapping yuan for gold and gold for yuan. That's the whole point. The only thing we don't know at this stage is what the fixed rate will be, and there will be a fixed rate. That way, the yuan for international trade purposes becomes a gold substitute. They won't need to hold gold, they can hold yuan. And that's basically where it is going. And the dollar will be out of it completely. I mean, if the dollar can't even try to go back on a gold standard because there is huge doubt over the gold reserves at the US Treasury. We know, for example, that a lot of gold disappeared into the market when they tried to rig the market in the 70s to drive gold out of the system. We know that there was a massive carry trade out of bullion, lease bullion. Your leasing costs were 0.5%, 1% tops. And at the time, you could sell it into the market and apply the dollar proceeds to US treasuries, which were yielding anything from 10% down to 5%, from the early 1980s onwards. So where did that go? Well, an analyst called Frank Veneroso reckoned that it all went into the market, never to be seen again. He thought it was probably adorning the necks of Asian women, which I think was a slightly flippant remark, but it was something that made the point. I reckon that China was in there picking it up because it was really from 1983 onwards, China basically embarked on a program of secretly buying gold. And, they had a wonderful bear market to do it. And when did the States suddenly decide that it could let its own citizens in on the act? That was at the bottom of the market in 2002. And the Shanghai Gold Exchange was then opened. And since then, the general public have taken delivery of something like 28,000 tons of gold. And that's in addition to anything which Chinese government acquired. We're not talking about the People's Bank's reserves at all. That's a completely different thing. But what they acquired, I reckon they could easily have acquired between 20 and 25,000 tons by 2002. And they have continued to acquire gold since then. I think at a lesser pace, admittedly. But they've got ample reserves. And a lot of those reserves would have come out of Fort Knox, in effect, as a result of America's attempts to drive gold out of the system and replace it with the dollar.